Hello, my name is Matthew and I've been asked to talk to you about how best to speak to an audience when your words are being interpreted. Now, you may be more or less used to speaking to an international audience, but the first thing I would say is to make sure that you bear in mind that there will be people for whom English is not the mother tongue, both people listening to you in the room and of course the interpreters who will be interpreting your words into other languages. So if you speak as if you were addressing your friends back home, then there may be things that get lost to do with the idiomatic expressions that you're using, or also perhaps the way that you enunciate. So enunciate the key elements of information very clearly and try to explain things in as general a way as you can. Speak at a natural speed, as if you're addressing people who do actually understand your language. There's no need to slow down and go kind of robotically slowly, as if people are too slow in their mental agility to keep up with you. And also, I would say, if you are going to read out any elements of information, bear in mind that the interpreters would obviously appreciate a copy of any written information in advance, but also that when you read something out from the page, that's the easiest thing in the world for you to do, because you don't have to think about what you say. But it's the hardest thing in the world for somebody else to interpret, because they don't know what you're going to say. You might have a tendency to speed up, and of course names and numbers present challenges for interpreters anyway. So I now, having given you a few examples of what it would be helpful to do, give you a few examples of what it can look like when somebody is less helpful.
Last year's figures were 30%, which if you compare it with 2008 is an increase of 10%, as Mr. Holmes was saying at our meeting in home. I'd be sick as a parrot if her indoors weren't over the moon about the old banger we just flogged off for a pretty penny after putting an ad in Exchange and Mart.
Now, do you remember that when the Irving Welsh film Trainspotting was shown in the United States, it was shown with subtitles? So it's not only speakers of other languages who might have trouble with the way that you speak your own language. And if you wanted to deliver that same message in a way that stood more of a chance of being understood by a more international audience, then you might like to present it something like this.
I would be a bit depressed if it weren't for the fact that my wife is currently overjoyed at the very good price we obtained for our old car through advertising it in a specialist magazine. For British manufacturers, it's a real challenge to compete with the Chinese producers, the producers in China, because according to my figures here, 2.56 million items are produced per quarter, giving an annual turnover of 3.2 billion yuan, which is $521 million US dollars, or 373 million euros pre-tax. In Ruritania, we have the expression, "Do not let the bees eat the harvest from the beet we use for sugar, before the church has rung the medium-sized bell to say the last evil spirits have left the village through the steeple of the church, because if you do, then no lambs will be born next Easter." And I think that's very relevant to our discussion here today.
So I hope I've given you some ideas of some of the potential pitfalls for when you're trying to communicate to a multilingual audience. Obviously, interpreters do face far more extreme and frustrating examples than these. I had to water them down a bit for the sake of illustration. But if you do have any doubts on the day of the conference, then why not go and talk to the interpreters too? We're human too. Happy communicating.